How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again, dropping yet another video. Right, check that dirty rapist at the beginning of the video, guys. Stephen Mitchell. Remember the name, remember the face. 50 years old, former police officer from Newcastle. Raped and sexually abused over 30 women in his line of duty. This was a man that was in a position of trust, abused that power, and sexually attacked at least 30 women. He's been released after, I think, 7.5 years in prison. 7.5 years in prison. I was in prison with a 57-year-old guy who got done for tax evasion, got 9 years. This guy rapes and sexually abuses vulnerable women, 30 of them, does 7.5 years. And there's some inconsistencies as well, reference sentencing and stuff, but I'll go into that. Right, so as always, guys, I'll put a link in the description below so you can browse at your own leisure should you choose to. There's been a lot of uproar and stuff like that. It's all over the papers and stuff. Local, national, news, tabloids, everyone's running this story. There was another rapist that was recently granted parole, and then it was reversed, and that guy's called John Warboys, now known as John Radford. He was a stripper, he'd done porn, and he's supposed to have abused up to over 100 women, but was convicted of like a tenth of that. But an absolute predator nonetheless. They reversed the decision and stuff, and as a result, the head of the parole board actually quit his job, and then he called for the Justice Secretary, who's currently David Gork, to also step down and take his role and stuff, and his head should go on the chopping board, but he kept his job and stuff. So anyway, guys, the headline reads, "Victim's fury as rapist policeman 50 is freed from prison less than 7 years, right, after he was jailed for life for attacking up to 30 women he met on duty." Now, just for the record, for jail for life, there's normally a minimum tariff, right, a minimum that you serve before you're eligible for parole. And like I say, we don't actually have life sentences over here. We do, but they're called whole life tariff. That means that you're never eligible for parole and you'll die in prison. And there's a very small, select few that are actually on that list. But it says there he was jailed for life after attacking up to 30 women he met whilst on duty. Stephen Mitchell was given 2 life sentences. Again, sounds like something out of America, 2 life sentences. Don't buy into that. Sounds like he's got 15 years, right, but not 15-year minimum, right? And then he's obviously got parole. This was at Newcastle Crown Court in 2011, so 7 years ago. The police officer raped and sexually abused vulnerable women. Police officer, guys. The 50-year-old has been released and was seen enjoying life on the outside. You can see pictures of him, one of him pushing a 500-pound mountain bike. His victims and campaigners are outraged over his release, saying it was wrong. Wrong's a bit of a fucking understatement, isn't it? A rapist policeman has been freed from prison less than 7 years after he was jailed for life for attacking 30 women he had met whilst on duty. Stephen Mitchell raped and sexually abused heroin addicts and a disabled teenager by offering them help whilst in custody, then demanding sexual favours afterwards. The former soldier was handed 2 life sentences at Newcastle Crown Court in 2011. Again, two life sentences. No, probably been given 15 years and he's done half of that, which again is an insult to the victims, right? Should be 7.5 years per. It should be 15 years per victim, in my opinion. Back in Newcastle in 2011, and was told he would not be eligible for parole for at least 7.5 years, which then gives me reason to believe that he got 15 years. But the 50-year-old has since been released and was seen enjoying life on the outside, riding a 500-pound bike, according to a report by the Sunday People. Mitchell's victims and campaigners are outraged over his release, saying it was wrong. Mitchell, who was deemed a high risk by a psychiatrist whilst in prison, was freed. So he was deemed high risk by a psychiatrist. These people get inside the mind of these people. He was deemed high risk, right? So obviously a high risk of reoffending by a psychiatrist, and he was freed. Former police officer, guys. That was Joe Public, could be a different kettle of fish. Right? A rapist is a rapist. I don't care who you are, what colour, your religion, sexuality, I don't care. Rape is fucking rape. End of story. One victim told the Sunday People it's wrong that he can get on with his life when he has ruined so many others. Another added, "I certainly didn't expect him to get out so quickly. I have never heard of anyone ever getting parole first time around for such serious offences, and given the fact he was manipulative and never admitted anything." He deliberately chose victims who were vulnerable and wouldn't be believed if they ever dared speak up. She continued, I honestly think he had used everything he learned in the army and the police to help him get parole by just telling them what he knew they wanted to hear. He knows exactly what he is doing. He managed to get away with it, what he was doing, despite being in the police. Being in the police, guys, obviously is supposed to be an upstanding member of the public, whiter than white. Obviously, I know opposite, and a lot of people do. Police are riddled with corruption and many other things. Racism is a big thing within the police. And like I say, he was obviously flying under the radar because he was a police officer, attacked 30 women, former heroin addicts, and like I said, a disabled teenager. Labour Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, called for the parole board to review its decision. She said, we urgently need to know what the parole board's reasons were, because to most people this really does not look like justice for the victims. The Justice Secretary needs to tell us urgently what progress he has made since the decision on John Warboys, who I alluded to earlier in the video, to stop the same things happening all over again. 50-year-old guys abused his position as a police officer to go after victims, vulnerable, susceptible victims, knowing that if they was to speak up, they wouldn't be believed. Right? This is a man that was in a position of trust. He abused that power by like so many police officers do, and he sounds like he's got 15 years and he's done 7.5. He's been granted parole. And he's out, even though he was deemed a higher risk by a psychiatrist, higher risk of reoffending. No amount of, when you're in prison, guys, right, and these fucking sex cases, right, that are housed on their own wing, that don't really get the reality of prison because they're protected, all housed on their own little wing, talking amongst themselves about the crime and stuff like that. You know what I mean? In America, I don't believe they have protection in America. They put child molesters called chomos in general population. And obviously, prison justice is prison justice, and you get attacked, beat up, and even murdered and killed and stuff. So that's that. It's shocking, guys. It's disgusting, this guy that he's released and stuff. Because, like I say, if it was Joe Public, he'd be knocked back for parole. This guy, because he's a former police officer, they've obviously seen that he's probably a person of previous good character. Previous good character goes out the fucking window once he's convicted. Psychiatrists deemed him to be high risk, and they freed him, guys. John Warboys, like I said, another predator. He was going to be freed and stuff, and there was outrage and stuff, and victims came forward and campaigners came forward, and like I said, it caused an uproar and a furore. And same with this, guys. I really hope that he's probably in a probation hostel or something like that right now. I hope they take him back to prison and review the decision and stuff and overturn it and never let him out. For me, castration is the only way forward for these people. Sex offenders, rapists, paedophiles, they all need, for me, you can't use what's not there. Castrate them, chemically castrate and then physically castrate them. Or never release them. Or I think there's a country, I don't know where it is, I think it's America or something, and you have like 3 strikes and you're out. There's a country where if you get done for it 3 times, you get lifed off, right? And once is enough for me, not 3 times. Don't let them do it 3 times. Just fucking jail them for life. Whole life tariff, never release them. And like I say, they should be they should be housed in solitary confinement so they can't talk about their sordid crimes with other prisoners of the same sort of mindset, i.e. on the vulnerable prisoners wing. Vulnerable prisoners, for those that don't know, are like people that have gone into protection, sex offenders, people that have gone on the numbers, like I say. Sex offenders, former police officers, or because they're obviously scared of reprisals and stuff, child molesters, paedophiles, rapists, people that download indecent images of children or make indecent images of children, etc., etc. Should all be housed in solitary confinement and should give me nothing to speak to. Like I say, it should just be mental torture for them, and they should never ever be released because they go on to reoffend. When they're in prison, they do like courses and stuff like that, apparently. Now, no amount of courses or psychological therapy is going to stop them. If you go up to prison, right, and obviously he's not a paedophile, right? Well, he said a teenager that was disabled, so he might be a paedophile. But if you go to prison attracted to women, you leave attracted to women. If you go to prison attracted to men, you leave attracted to men. If you go to prison attracted to children, you come out attracted to children. It's as simple as that. Now, this guy is obviously a predator. He's been locked up for 7 years, 7.5 years, so he's not had sex on that time unless he's resorted to having sexual relationships with other prisoners. But like I said, so he's going to get out, he's going to have this need and stuff like that, and he could act on his impulses, couldn't he? And like I said, the psychiatrist deemed him as high risk. What did they do? They freed him. Let me know what you think about the video, guys. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cody out.